and get our business started for the Scott County Fiscal Court here on the 9th day of September. Appreciate everyone being here. We've got some important information to cover on the agenda today, and then we have a great Scott County weekend ahead of us with the Festival of the Horse, and just a lot of things going on, and just really highlights what a great community we have. We're blessed beyond measure, that's for sure. So if you all would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Let us pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Hamilton, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Hostetler?
Present.
Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Foreman?
Present.
Mr. Ellison?
Here.
Mr. Davila?
Here.
Mr. Livingston? Mr. Culbertson?
Here.
Judge Cuttington?
Present. Thank you all. With that said, I'm going to look at number 4, the minutes from our previous meeting that was shared with you. Are there any questions or comments related to those?
No questions, Judge. Motion.
Motion from Mr. Hostetler. Second from Mr. Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, transfers as presented in your packet. Any questions or comments related to those transfers?
Motion for approval.
Motion from Mr. Wallace. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Davila. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Bills and hand checks as presented. Any questions or comments?
There's no handshakes listed, but there will be one under new business that Ken is going to cover.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions or comments? Would there be a motion to approve?
We need to hear about that before we approve it.
Well, the bills only. I'm sorry, I should have clarified that. So the bills we're approving now. Would there be a motion to approve the bills as presented? A motion from Mr. Lyons, a second from Mr. Hostetler. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, and we'll cover that hand check in new business. Number 7, ordinance 2210, second reading, Mallard Point speed limit.
Scott County Fiscal Court ordinance number 2210, an ordinance relating to speed limits in Mallard Point subdivision. Whereas Mallard Point subdivision is a developed residential area in Scott County, and whereas in the interest of public safety, certain regulations are required for the operation of automobile vehicle traffic in Scott County, and whereas pursuant to KRS 67.083, the Scott County Fiscal Court has the authority to enact ordinances regarding the provision of streets and roads and enforcement of traffic regulations, and whereas pursuant to KRS 189.395A, Scott County may by ordinance establish the speed limits within its own jurisdiction, and whereas, thank you, sir, due to the winding, curving, and steep nature of county roads located in the Mallard Point subdivision, in the interest of public safety and as requested by residents of Mallard Point subdivision, it is prudent to establish a speed limit in Mallard Point subdivision lower than the default speed limit of 35 miles per hour in residential districts. Now, therefore, be it ordained and enacted by the Fiscal Court of Scott County, Kentucky, that the speed limit for motor vehicles on all roads within Mallard Point subdivision shall be 25 miles per hour. These roads are Mallard Point Drive, Broadville Court, Ringville Court, Spoonville Court, Drake Lane, Blue Wing Court, White Wing Court, Quandie Court, Whistler Court, Widgeon Way, Widgeon Court, Pinnacle Point, Mallard Point Court, Bluebill Court, Bluffhead Court, Golden Eye Court, Red Wing Court, Black Duck Drive, Sheldrake Court, Blackberry Ridge Court, Shoveler Court, Mercanser Court, Green Wing Court, Keel Court, Doe Court, Pintail Court, Falcon Court, Wood Duck Lane, Eider Court, Brant Court, Canvasback Court, and additional roads as may be added to Mallard Point subdivision. Signs shall be conspicuously posted by the road department in the Mallard Point subdivision to provide notice of this speed limit. All peace officers shall have the authority to enforce the speed limit consistent with the provisions of Kentucky law. This ordinance shall take effect immediately upon passage and publication. First reading was approved August 25th, 2022, and if you vote so, adopted today, September 9th, 2022.
Questions or comments? Motion for Mr. Hostetler. Second for Mr. Doblin. I'm still disappointed we didn't get lame duck in there, though. So we got a motion, we got a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Yeah, I just wanted
JR?
typo there, I circled.
Will you make a nice, pretty sign, or do we need any signage?
Yes, sir.
All right, we appreciate you.
Do they currently have signs, 35?
There's signs that says 25, but they're like a wooden sign that's not real visible, and everybody just wanted to make it legal.
You published and everything.
So,
Judge, they're still building out there, so maybe.
yeah, maybe so. Cam, number 8. It's the second reading of the zoning commercial landscape text amendment. Would you please cover that summary?
Yes, sir. Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance number 2211. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of Scott County, Kentucky, and the cities of Georgetown, Sadyville, and Stamping Ground pertaining to commercial landscape operations. Whereas the Georgetown Scott County Planning Commission has approved a text amendment to the zoning ordinance of Scott County, Kentucky, and the cities of Georgetown, Sadyville, and Stamping Ground, or zoning ordinance, regarding commercial landscape operations. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Scott County Fiscal Court as follows. Section 2.1 of the zoning ordinance is amended to add following definition in alphabetic order, with the extant definitions being between the definitions of commercial floor area and commission. Commercial landscape operation: the sale and or provision of tree, lawn, and landscaping goods or services or grounds maintenance to others. Such uses may specifically include A, the sale or provision or use of landscaping materials, including without limitation, mulch, sod, trees, grasses, flowers, grown or produced on or off the subject property. B, mowing, planting, pruning, and mulching. C, snow and ice maintenance, management, and removal. D, nurseries and greenhouses. And E, office buildings and facilities for the storage, repair, and maintenance of materials and equipment reasonably necessary for providing these goods and or services. 2, in order to add commercial landscape operations to the list of conditional uses in A1 districts, Section 4.2 is amended by adding a new Section 4.212M as follows. M, commercial landscape operations. 3, by adding commercial landscape operations to the list of permitted uses in B2 districts, Section 4.421 is amended by adding a new Section 4.421G as follows. G, commercial landscape operations. 4, by adding commercial landscape operations to the list of conditional uses in B4 districts, Section 4.442 is amended by adding a new Section 4.442G as follows. D, commercial landscape operations. 5, by adding commercial landscape operations to the list of permitted uses in B5 districts, Section 4.451 is amended by adding a new Section 4.451G as follows. G, commercial landscape operations. 6, by adding commercial landscape operations to the list of permitted uses in I1 districts, Section 4.51 is amended by adding a new Section 4.51G as follows. G, commercial landscape operations. 7, effective date. This ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication. First reading approved August 25th, 2022. Adopted upon second reading September 9th, 2022.
Questions, comments?
No question, Judge.
Motion
Motion.
for Mr. Hostetler. Second for Mr. Wallace. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to ask Kimberly Rice, our Parks and Rec Director, to step to the podium and share just some rationale for consideration related to a draft ordinance 2212 first reading about parks property regulations. I'll let Kim talk, and then I think there was a couple questions. Mr. Wallace had a suggestion. We could talk about that and then possibly read the draft. Go ahead, Kim.
So I know that most of you are probably aware that we've had some issues on some of our sports fields with ATVs, with mini bikes. We have those problems within the city and within the county. So Mr. Culbertson and Ms. Golden and I have been working together to try to come up with a draft so we can get an ordinance for both the city and the county. In addition to the damage that it causes on the sports fields, we have problems within the walking trails at Brookings Park where it's a nuisance, where walkers will be trying to be walking and we'll get complaints about ATVs or cars driving on the walking trail. So that's what this ordinance is hoping to deter. We wanted to leave it flexible enough to where we have to use ATVs for trash pickup and those types of things within the park, dragging of fields. And when we do special events, we do park on the fields, such as the tractor pull or the fair, not the fields, the grass. So it was purposely written in a manner to where it could be flexible for use within programs and activities, but also be restrictive enough to hopefully deter some of the damage.
Would you all post professional signs?
Well, and there are some signs already posted over in Brookings Park. That's the only one, and I think it has two, and I'd say they've probably been there 50 years because they're in really bad.
Yeah. And JR has signs posted at Great Crossing Park and as well. But, Chad, what was your suggestion?
Yeah, well, in the actual draft ordinance, it says that the only people who could be in the park with the ATVs is Georgetown, Scott County Parks and Recreation members. And my question was, well, what about the county employees, like the road department? Or let's say the sheriff's office is out there and they have a UTV.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's not, it wasn't
You
in
want
there.
to add and county employees.
County, city employees.
Yeah.
For business purposes or something along those lines, yeah.
Also, the organizers of special events like Kiwanis, they use them shuttling their gates, receipts.
And they're
back
partnered
forth.
with us on that event.
But it's not, for the alumni, I used to help the alumni do the truck pulls, and we would have them.
Or could we put in there a sentence that says, or for special events authorized by Parks and Rec?
I thought maybe for volunteer, it spells out who can be, so
Yeah.
volunteers of special events.
Authorized by Parks
Yeah,
and Rec.
something like that, because I don't want them to be in violation just by.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all of those large type special events like the rodeo that's coming up in the tractor pull, we are automatically partnered with them. So even though Kiwanis is the one that's putting it on, we're there as a partner working too.
Oh, sorry.
Did you get all that, Cam?
I got it.
Any other questions or comments? And of course, there is a fine, but this gives our law enforcement the ability to have a little teeth in it. But, mentioned as well, if somebody is violating this and they cause damage, they're still subject to restitution.
Yes.
And, just an example over there at Lyle Road, we kind of dodged a terrible situation, but, that we've done a lot of work over there, and we want to try to prohibit that type of activity. And JR is just now getting ready to order more seed.
Excellent.
And we're going to power seed and fertilize those 4 fields at Lyle Road here in the next 2 weeks, JR, probably. And try to put it to bed this winter and really hope it comes in good and thick next spring, and then turn those fields over for use. That's the hope. And they've got a good stand of grass on them now. And by doing this additional seeding, this fall seeding, get a lot better. We were blessed back in the spring, but get a lot better percent germination here in the fall. So that's exciting. But this hopefully would be just one reason for somebody not to go out there with an ATV.
Yeah.
Oh no, but we.
We're behind all the baseball, softball.
But we,
it's
JR
bad.
put a fence up and to try to close that off, because there was a big gap there.
And we want to protect our investments that we're doing into the fields. And that Lyle Road is not the only place that we have those problems.
Cam, would you read
Yes, sir.
the summary?
And I've added some language here, so let me know if you want to tweak.
So has this been read by city as well already? Could they?
No, they have not read it in
So we need
city
to make
council.
sure we share these.
Yes, Devin has been a part of
All right.
conversation.
Will do, yeah. Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 22-12, an ordinance relating to the prohibition of mini motorbikes and ATVs and related to parking on county parks property. Whereas the purpose of local government is to serve the people of Scott County to the best of its ability and to assure the safety, health, and welfare of its citizens, and whereas the Scott County Fiscal Court has an interest in preserving and maintaining Scott County Parks property and preventing property damage and nuisance on said property, and whereas the use of many motorbikes and ATVs on Scott County Parks property as well as parking on the grass has caused destruction of turf and a nuisance to parks users. Now therefore be it ordained by the Scott County Fiscal Court as follows. 1. No person shall operate, park, or allow to be operated or parked any motor vehicle within any of the county's parks except within the areas, times, and conditions for such operation and parking as determined and posted at the entrance to all county parks by the Director of the Georgetown Scott County Parks and Recreation, or in the case of Great Crossings Park, by the Director of Great Crossing Park. 2. No person shall operate any ATV or mini bike within any of the county's parks, except that staff members of Georgetown Scott County Parks and Recreation are permitted to use ATVs in county parks for trash removal during special events and as otherwise authorized by the Director of the Georgetown Scott County Parks and Recreation, and county and city employees are permitted to operate ATVs in the parks as necessary to perform job duties. 3. Any person violating this ordinance may be denied entrance to the park and or issued a citation and fine not less than $25 nor more than $100 for each offense. 4. This ordinance may be enforced by the Scott County Sheriff's Office or any other law enforcement agency having jurisdiction. 5. The ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication as required by law. First reading approved September 9th, 2022.
Any questions or comments?
You still didn't have language.
About the volunteers.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Volunteers of authorized events or something. Yeah.
Okay.
In the
I will
first,
add that.
in the first section, Cam, can we add golf carts too?
It's fine with me. So prohibit those?
Yes.
Okay.
So the wording in
So are
section,
you-
the wording in section 2 would be, it would go, let's see here.
You probably can't
As
read.
otherwise
but-
authorized by the director,
Garbage.
and county and city employees are permitted to operate ATVs in the parks for the for their job duties, performance of job duties, and any special event volunteer authorized by the Scott County Parks and Recs Department, Georgetown Scott County Parks and Rec Department. So we'll get that all typed up, but that's the first reading. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Cam, so if I'm driving a scooter on there and you all...
You're in trouble.
Well...
I want video.
I want to make sure this is, I mean, it's rock solid here. Is the judge going to say, well, because we're looking at this ordinance, scooters are not on there, then, you're not available for a fine?
You want a definition of mini motorbike?
Well, what I'm trying to do is just try to be inclusive of all motor type
So
recreational.
change the wording to prohibit any ATV, mini bike, or motorized
Yeah.
vehicle.
I'm just trying to use a drag net to get everything
Yeah.
that we're
I'm
not
just
going
going to say a motorized scooter. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, anything that's got a motor to it, I would say.
Any
yeah.
motorized apparatus.
Is that the
Putting that
plural
red
form of
eye in there, that's
apparatus?
going to be a word. My question for you on the golf carts: you just want that in section 1 Where you don't want them parked in the grass, or do you want them banned?
Off of the trails. The big thing is keeping them
You're
off the
okay
trails.
with people driving golf carts as long as they're where they're supposed to?
With yeah, as long as
Okay,
they're on the
got it.
roads, yeah.
All right.
I know that at least one park, and I can't remember which one it is, they use their golf carts to go pick up their kids at school, and they cut through the park somehow.
Okay.
Larry told me that one. But they stay on the roads. They don't drive up on the trails.
You're good with that as long as they're on. I got it.
I just don't want them on the trails.
Okay. Any
Running
other
people
questions
over.
or comments? Would there be a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We will move to Jeff Mudrack. Thank you, Kim. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to ask you to comment on Lacey Truck.
I knew it.
Yes, Judge, Magistrates, I have two recommendations to present to you. First is Bryson Reynolds, who will be a cooperative education student working in the judge's office and working with Stacy at $8.50 an hour. And the second is Krista Callanan, who is a Georgetown College student. She'll be an HR intern at $10 an hour. She'll start on Monday, September the 12th, is the recommendation. So I'll present those to you for approval.
Questions or comments? Would there be a motion to approve? Motion from Mr. Ellison, second from Mr. Hostetler. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Jeff. Bid results, retention basin project. JR, would you come up to the podium? And JR's been doing quite a bit of legwork on this. Dr. Wallace has been out there. Many of y'all have been out there to Joshua Court. This has been a long time process, and we do believe that this will provide relief for the situation. JR, yesterday we opened bids from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you received a recommendation from,
HMB,
and that recommendation was Arts Electric.
Arts Electric, low bid of 61,000. What was the change?
It was 60,550.
Yes. And they said everything was in order, bid documents, everything in place, and they recommended that late last night. There was bids anywhere from $500,000 back to 60,000.
We had one come in at 546,000.
Wow.
Yes.
And then there was 150, there's 89, there was a 71.
HMB highly recommended
Yeah,
them.
H&B said that these are professional contractors. They've got a good record, and they do a good job. That includes the cost of fencing, and we do have to pay that $20,000 on top of this, a $20,000 easement, permanent drainage easement to the owners. So,
Is that to the owners of the land?
of the land,
Farm?
yes.
Approximately 2 acres.
Did it include the reseeding, I guess, the bid, that price includes seeding, and it's got to be seeded back?
JR, that's a good question.
I'm sorry, what?
Alvin asked if the bid included reseeding.
Reseeding, yes.
Okay.
Complete project,
Yeah.
except fence and all.
That fencing between the properties. So,
There was like 2 options. You either fence the retention pond because the neighborhood is right next Homestead, but the property owners preferred a boundary fence between there and leave the retention pond kind of open, and because it's going to be a dry area anyway. So
now, we've had this going for some time.
many years.
Yeah. In my opinion, this will be a much more cost-saving solution compared to other alternatives.
Yes.
Michelle, I want to put you on the spot. Sorry for putting you on the spot. Where would we pull this from? This capital projects?
Probably so.
Yeah.
There's another fund that we are allotting $200,000 that we can pull from.
Okay. And then just keep in mind as we move forward with putting out bids for the sheriff's office, and we start talking about options for bonding and how much cash we want to put in on the sheriff's office project, EMS project, that we'll probably amend our budget at that point to reflect those changes. Just that's going to be a reality. I just wanted to talk about that. So we need two motions here. JR, thank you.
Thank you.
We need a motion to approve the $20,000 permanent drainage easement, and then we need a motion to accept the bid recommendation for Arts Electrical for the work.
Arts Electrical.
Yeah, they have a construction arm of. I guess they have to do a lot of that kind of stuff on the job. So,
Motion for approval.
okay. So is there a motion for approval
easement.
of the easement? A second from Mr. Lyons. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number two, would there be a motion to accept the bid of Arts Electrical for the basin project? Motion from Mr. Ellison. Is there a second? Second from Kelly Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our hopes is to get this going ASAP. Thank you all. New business. Let the record reflect clerk fees in the amount of $208,069.32 were submitted. Let the record reflect sheriff's fees of $45,953.95 were submitted. Let the record reflect that no comments were made related to the advertisement of the solid waste management plan.
No public hearing requested.
Thus, there would be no public hearing requested. So that's that. The next item, fire department hiring list that we've talked about. Did we share that? Promotional list. And this is a item that it's been shared. Would there be a motion to approve that list? Motion from Mr. Hostetler. Is there a second from Mr. Ellison? Any other questions or comments?
Just a clarification, so when an opening comes up, how's it work, Chief?
Basically, per our policy, once we did that promotion, we created a list. So once the list is posted, it's good for a year. So any time from now until a year later, if any of those positions open up, we would just pull the next one on the list.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion. Did we have a second? Second. Mr. Ellison did. All right. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, FEMA grant, Leesburg Road. This has been a long, drawn out. I mean, this started like 2.5 years ago. Mike, would you like to share? And just to remind everybody, this is a property on Leesburg Pike. We applied for the grant. We were awarded the grant. How does it work, Mike?
Yeah, it's actually been closer to 4 years that we've been in process.
Time just slips away when
It does. But basically, the homeowners at 257 Leesburg Road, from the time that they purchased the property until roughly 18 months ago, every time it rains, they get at least 4 inches of water in the basement. Significant rains, they go up to 4 feet of water. They've had total catastrophic loss on their flood insurance 3 times. The 4th time, FEMA said, we're not paying it again. We're just going to do a buyout process. So that's what we've been working on for the last 4 years. We've been approved for the whole $275,000, which is a reimbursement. So the county will purchase the property, demolish it, take it back to green space, and then a check will be issued from the federal government to reimburse us for that $275,000.
And then the Scott County Fiscal Court would be on the deed of that property.
Correct.
Now, could the court consider selling it to a neighbor with a restriction that no buildings be built on it?
Yes, it's deed restricted, but you can dispose of it as long as it stays green space and is not used for any kind of occupancy.
How many acres would it be?
I believe it's a little over 5, 5 1/4.
What about that cemetery?
Green space.
Yeah, transferring that.
Like Rick Hosteller, your wheels are always turning. He's on
I
that.
don't know about that. Tell them.
Every time you say green space,
Your wheels are turning. I mean,
Well, but
permanent recreation space
Right.
there's a stipulation in that,
that we didn't own either.
right? So we better make sure we're in that.
Before we close it, we need to talk to Andrew Hartley.
Yeah. It sounds like we need to have that conversation soon because we're in the process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, the Waldridges, the people that own the property, have a flood insurance payment coming due. I can't imagine having $12,000 a year insurance payment, but
Well, we'll make that call and try to communicate.
Years. Probably 30, 25 years.
when they did a new culvert and bridge in the vicinity of this property, it changed the topography.
it wasn't always like this. Whenever they
No.
moved down upstream somewhere.
These homeowners have sued the fiscal court, have sued Judge Lusby personally, sued their realtor, had no relief whatsoever. They've been turned down for all kinds of things. So, in actual fact, they've moved to Mississippi, abandoned the house, they couldn't live in it. So, we're just trying to take permanent measures.
Yeah. Any questions?
You said there was 5 acres. Is the entire 5 acres in the floodplain? There's no part of the property?
The way the process works is, we are procuring the property and all improvements. So the deed would be restricted for that property. You can't, it doesn't matter whether it's floodplain or not.
So no matter what, it's going to be deed restricted.
Right, deed restricted to no improvements. So.
Any other questions? Would there be a motion to approve? Motion from Mr. Hostetler, second from Mr. Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Hallelujah. Kim, could you come back up? And Kim shared an email that she and I are going to try to attend together. It's really like a Legacy Trail kickoff. Could you share information with the court about that project?
Hallelujah, we're finally moving forward. A year from the grant application date. So we're doing our initial kickoff meeting sometime in the next couple of weeks. We're trying to get together and figure out what days schedules work. It's basically an overall of the process. I've gone through the training video. It's very, kind of scared JR a little bit. On record, JR is the project manager. Legally, he has to be because he's a full-time employee of Scott County Fiscal Court, whereas I am not a full-time employee of Scott County Fiscal Court. But I envision that JR and I are going to be working together going through this grant process. It's very intense and very complicated. The forms and the directions are about that thick in a binder as you go through the whole process. But it is very step-by-step. I have reached out to the horse park. We had a meeting to see how the actual construction on the horse park property is going to be different than once we get outside of the horse park property. And it's just a measure of writing an MOA between the state and Scott County Fiscal Court for us to be able to do the construction. We can use one engineer across the whole project because that was a question in the beginning. If the state was going to require a separate designer for what was on the horse park property. But from what I understand in our initial meetings that we'll be able to use whatever designer or engineer the fiscal court chooses as we go through the RFP process.
Okay.
So,
any questions?
Yeah, first step, though, you're going to have to go obtain the property, correct?
Yes. Yes and no. You cannot do anything with the right-of-ways until you get the go-ahead from the state, and that's actually 3 steps into the process.
Okay.
And she was very, very clear on that. It's very clear on all of the training and the materials. That's their huge thing. Like, don't touch the right-of-ways until we tell you it's okay. because apparently it's jeopardized several of the TAP grants where people get excited and they're like, okay, let's go get our right-of-ways.
You mean right away from Lyle Road, or the right away from the horse park, or specific, or the railroad?
All of them.
The railroad, everything?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, railroad, everything. The state, from what I understand, we're also going to have to get some permissions from the feds because we're going underneath the interstate, so.
Okay.
Even though that's the existing path, all right. Fun times, but.
Lots of boxes.
Yeah, but it should be a really good thing, so thank you. Any other questions? All right, we'll keep you abreast of that, and as we shared, I'd encourage everybody to go out and take a peek at Lyle Road at the soccer complex. The roof is now on the building. It's being cleaned up pretty good, and hopefully they're pouring the pad today for the area. I mean, now it's moving. There's not a. I think we've got an update meeting this week coming, so we'll have a little bit more, but that's good stuff as well. And that's going to marry the Legacy trailhead with the Lyle Road complex, and should be a good partnership. So thank you. I think I shared this via email, but I wanted to make it public and express my really appreciation to Toyota, Susan Elkington, Kim Ogle. This week on Wednesday, after about several months of conversations and such, we have been formally approved for the donation of approximately 7 acres on Lexus Way, and that property will be used to construct the EMS station and then a future City of Georgetown fire station. So we've been formally approved. We'll work through the transfer of the property as we go forward, but we're full steam ahead there, and really appreciate Toyota and their team, their leadership team. The placement of this was done after a lot of research, looking at data, and the placement will positively impact and lower response times for the whole county. And it's strategically located by the interstate access and then the east part of the county where the county's growing quite a bit. So it's exciting stuff. 7 acres there.
Brandon might want to. It should reduce the number of times that the outlying stations have to be pulled out, like Stamping Ground Stadium. Those guys are pulled into town quite often, and so that should reduce that.
No, absolutely. That's the hope. And just to remind everybody that, we're not adding additional staff. We're just moving staff. So that's another thing to consider as well. So that's a big positive. I'm very excited about this. And this next item.
Can I go back to that for just a minute? And this is
Yes,
great.
sir.
And we're very appreciative of Toyota. I was looking at the plans here of what's proposed for the EMS station as well as for Georgetown Fire Department.
Now, let me give you an update before you go any further.
Yeah.
Georgetown, the mayor actually called me yesterday, and in discussions with Tim Thompson and making, looking at a big picture of what they want to do in Tim's new role, their belief is that they might not need as large a building as that was shared on the original site plan draft. So our footprint of the EMS station is staying the same. That is going to probably move more towards the center of the property. We still have issues with there's only 2 points of access. We can't do anything about that. So that site plan is going to be tweaked a little bit, and then I'll bring you back drafts. Their thought process is maybe not as large a facility as originally planned. So I'll share as I get more information.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Toyota's in understanding that this is part of the proposal. I didn't know if it's sometime in the future that we would have to do, if we were going to allow them to build on the county's land because it would be in our name, or if we needed to deed off that to the city. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I haven't got that far.
Yeah.
But what was presented in the proposal was that the donation would go to serve the construction of an EMS station and a future Georgetown Fire facility.
Yeah. So if we did it off of the city, that Toyota's totally good with that. Okay.
No, and that's, that's not been discussed yet, but we'll navigate it on paper.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You said, we're not hiring staff, are they often?
Chris, could you give us the shuffle?
Morning, Judge, Magistrates. Dwayne, yes. So currently we run 4 ambulances out of our headquarters station, and because of the lack of space, we actually have them parked behind each other and have to play musical trucks. So the plan in the future, when that station is completed, is to move 2 ambulances out there and keep 2 down here. So we would have equal coverage on both sides.
So you'd have 2 out there and 2 still downtown.
Yeah.
So any other questions for Chris? And just the education component with our paramedic certification program. It's just this is a win-win.
Absolutely. Appreciate all your support and help.
Now, this last piece that I have, I'd like to ask if we could show a slide. And I really want to, if you could back up one. Yeah, right there. This is a draft rendering and a vision. And I really want to talk about, Alvin Lyons has talked to me quite a bit about this and others as well. But, the need for a farmer's market pavilion that could be multi-use in the back parking lot here of the city parking lot at the corner of Washington and Broadway. I've shared this with Mayor Prather. We have sat down with Branstetter Carroll and looked at this draft and talked about the placement. The concern that was there was about the loss of any existing parking. And what's been shared with me is that if we construct it as presented, there would be, right now there's 153 parking spots behind City Hall in this lot. After this construction, there would be 145 still remaining. So you would have a net loss of 8. Parking, this would be premium covered parking.
That's what I was thinking.
During the day, people could park underneath it. This is a vision. Yeah. We can do that maybe, but this is a vision. I want to move forward with this. Branstetter Carroll, originally we talked about in budget times about the budget being approximately $750,000. They still think that this can be constructed for that. Of course, the bids would have to go out for that ballpark dollar. But what they need to add into it is the way the design came out to give you that streetscape look. That right there is where it would sit. So the darkened area in the corner would be the actual pavilion. Well, what they need to figure out and get a pricing on is the work to do the sidewalk and the streetscaping there in the light gray with the tree planters and such. But having this, I think could be a home run. In my mind, I want to get the ball rolling because we need to chase the $250,000 that's available from the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. That would give us up to $250,000 for the construction of this. And, I've talked to Commissioner Quarles, and he's actually connected me with team members there that could help us go through that process. So, my next step would be to try to get, more concrete estimates about the site prep to give us a good estimate on how much it actually going to cost. And then, we had hoped that we could put in 250 or so and then find 250 from other sources. One option that I would propose us to consider is, you look at downtown Lexington, you look at some of these other cities that have these facilities, you could do an RFP for a 10-year licensing agreement for branding. It could be, the XYZ Pavilion, and they pay X amount of dollars per year for that right, to decrease the overall cost. I think it's something that we should consider. So I'm excited. I think there's one more slide that we could look at. This is an underneath view, I believe. If we could slide to the next slide. Maybe not. That's okay. Anyway, what comments or questions does anyone have? And I can share some dimensions as well. Looking at the L. Okay, there's another slide. The width of that, what you're looking at right there, is 118 feet from edge to edge. So both wings are 118 feet, and underneath, you have an alley, like an avenue that's 26 feet and 10 inches wide. Now, the hope would be is that a mobile stage could also be used underneath this, and you could have different events, in that area, and make it multi-purpose. So we're trying to make that consideration as well. What other questions or comments does anybody have?
So a couple things on just the logistics part of it. So when the Justice Center is built, there will be additional parking across the street that would accommodate for the 8 missing.
There'll be
spots.
over 50. Yeah. I can't remember the exact number, but behind the proposed Justice Center, there will be public parking in excess of 50 spots.
Okay, so that it's just going to be a shift to parking, and then the city owns the lot, but now this structure would be owned by the county, and it's kind of back to what I was talking about earlier.
We need to navigate it, but I've sat with the mayor and walked through this process, and the mayor, in what I shared with the mayor is, I would say over 90% of our vendors are from the county, our farmers, and that's why I call for us to support this from the county aspect.
Sure.
And Alvin, would you like to comment?
Yes, local foods movement was huge before COVID set in. People wanted to connect where their food came from, know where it came from. Well, when COVID hit, it just exacerbated that exponentially. And this is an excellent opportunity for people to connect with where their food comes from. So I think it'd be a great project. One thing I do want to clarify, I'm a farmer, but I don't do this type of farming. So it's not for me personally, but for the community, I think it would be a great asset.
And Alvin's been an advocate, and Alvin and I have talked about this quite a bit, and this has been a project that he's championed, and I appreciate his input.
We'll have to do some. Do what?
Oh, it's been a home run.
A lot of people there.
But just imagine that being there, and it, just
Makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
But we'll have to put a lot of infrastructure, like for the electric and all that stuff. All that's going to be kind of the big deal as far as that goes.
This would be used for concerts too.
I would love to think that you could pull that mobile stage. It's 26 feet wide, the avenue underneath. If you go down to the last slide, 6 there, that's 26 feet wide.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't know the dimensions of the height, but you could pull a trailer mobile stage that, we just gave $21,000 to Parks and Rec to purchase, partner with, tourism, I'm sorry, tourism partner, we want to make sure that a stage can be pulled underneath there and used before we solidify any plans. But yes, concerts, you know, I think Alvin mentioned not too long ago, and I think I saw him too, there was just right in the middle of the parking lot one Friday night, there was no cover, nothing. They were just having a concert, and you know, this could be, you know, an option for that kind of stuff.
I think it's a great idea. I think we should have done it a long time ago, really.
Yeah, I think it would definitely be a multi-use facility. I mean, the farmers market's, you know, just a few days. So,
And the farmers.
and what, you know, before I knew about the mobile stage, I'd suggested designing in a stage that could be lifted up into the rafters when it's not used. But if we got the portable, you know, if that works in there, that's even better.
Think about wherever we might need to really think through wherever you think the stage is going to go, the ceiling, the openings, and stuff like that. I mean, if you're going to do it, you might as well plan it.
No, it has to marry. But what I wanted to point out in this picture, you see the streetscape and the seating and the planters for trees. That's the cost that they don't have figured yet. And you know, building the structure, they feel like that's $750. But to make it nice and have those trees and those
15-year-old trees.
Judge, I got a question. Would we need an interlocal agreement with the city to do this?
an MOA or interlocal probably to, you know,
When we funded the paving of the parking lot, I don't think there was MOA. I think we just voted to pay for half of it.
To make a
Yeah.
But it'd probably be wise to have something on paper.
Yeah. Especially with the new mayor.
If we buy this or pay for it, then it takes care of it. I'd say the city would still be under Public Works, right?
That's a good question.
Good question.
That parking lot's under Public Works, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
The only thing I worry about this is birds.
Sure.
Can you put netting?
Well, I would build it like, I've seen a lot of those now. They don't, like all that wrapper stuff, get rid of it. You know, it's got to be straight metal under there.
There's no, just like siding almost.
Well, like schools now, they have those walkway things. Now they're building them to where if there's nothing for a bird.
Supports,
Nest in there.
Yeah.
And they're really clean. You go to like several places in our last couple, they're building where birds don't get under there.
So I just wanted to share this, and we'll be working on it. It's exciting stuff. Does anybody else have any new business that they want to bring to the court?
I have an issue or item I'd like to talk about. I have an email from Dr. Chip Richardson regarding Choctaw. And he asked me if we were making any headway when we got information from the Bluegrass Community Foundation. Apparently they did a legal analysis and found the easement would be fine for public benefit. I want to know if the county is interested in doing the matching funds with the federal grant, and that those funds would be going to a 501 foundation. And he's sent me a couple of emails, and I know we've talked about it in the past, but I want to bring it back up and see if we have any thoughts on this.
He sent me an email as well, and I had communicated back with Dr. Richardson to give us a written form of the legal analysis. And every time I've asked for that, it's kind of been, he said, yes, it's happened, and that type of thing. And he referenced Rand Marshall, Cam, had come up with a legal opinion about this. And I've asked him to send it to me legally, and so I can pass it on to the court, and I've not gotten anything yet. So I did want to add on to that, what you brought up, that I've asked for that specific legal analysis on letterhead and from their attorney, but I've not received that. That's been multiple weeks.
That's step one, right?
Yeah.
So I would propose that I ask Cam to reach out to Dr. Richardson and ask for that same thing, and get that, and then report back to the court and go from there. Is that fair, Kelly?
Yes, sir.
Kelly, if you just want to forward me that email and so forth, I'll make contact with you.
Rick Hostetler.
Well, just one other comment with that. It does have that Choctaw Academy does have some unique history that's probably really unique. I'm talking about around our country, the background on that. And I've seen those emails, and when that structure completely falls down, you know, that's the end of it. That history's gone. The building is, obviously, we know what went on there. There's been quite a bit of writing about it, and I think our local historian, Miss Bevins, has included that in at least one book that I've read of hers. So I hate to lose the history, but because it's unique.
No, absolutely.
It's unique. What went on there goes way back.
Yeah. Thank you.
One other comment, if I
Yes,
can,
sir.
back to that pavilion. There are several folks that live in the district that I have the privilege to serve that actually use that facility. They farm. They're farmers like Alvin, but they do the vegetables. And so they've been talking to me about it for years. And from the sounds of things, it would be great if we could get this through into spring. Don't they start on, is it Memorial Day weekend? They kind of run the Memorial Day to Labor Day Saturdays, I think, something like that. I'm not sure if you know the farmers market schedule.
No, it's
So that's coming up.
late May.
Yeah.
Late May.
Something like that.
You know, they're still
Anyhow,
going.
if we're going to do it, the costs are probably going to just keep going up, it looks like.
No.
I will say, I bet you're probably going to lose more spots than anything, because you're going to have holes there. They're already tight spacing down there, I think, anyway, which is fine. You're going to want something reinforced. It's going to get hit. Those holes are going to get hit by it. So putting aluminum, whatever, or something that's going to get jacked up all the time. I mean, so you're probably going to have a bigger base stuff.
Yeah.
So you're going to lose more spots, which
Concrete.
well, maybe, I don't know, it could be concrete, metal, whatever, I'm sure some of our police guys, all kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah. But,
Just a comment, Judge,
yeah.
thanks.
Any other new business? Any other new business from anyone in our audience?
Hiring list. No, we did.
We did it. Thank you. So with that said, I would encourage everyone to enjoy this weekend, and you've got the parade, Colt and Philly parade tonight. You've got the big parade tomorrow at 5. Of course, some of you are going to ride the trolley. Some of you had other things going on, so I think that parade starts at 5. So we'll see you tomorrow night if you're riding that. And then on Monday we have 11:30 Chamber State of the County, and we'll be sharing all good news and all the work that you all have been working on. It's not me. I'm just reporting what the team of the Scott County Fiscal Court is doing, and it's always been my approach. It is a team effort, and I'm appreciated. I appreciate your all's partnership and teamwork.
Well, we need a coach.
Chief bottle washer.
Yeah, chief bottle washer. With that said, then, is there a motion to adjourn? Got a motion? Is there a second? Second from Mr. Davila. All those in favor? We are adjourned.